Am I the jerk for laughing in my sister's face? So today it was my grandma's 90th birthday party. My entire family came, alongside my sister's boyfriend, who we'll call A. I should acknowledge the fact that my sister and I have had a rocky relationship, and I cut her out for a few years when she moved in with my dad. However, over the past few months, we've been speaking and creating a relationship. The reason we stopped speaking was that for 5 years, she was the problem child. She caused issues within the family and outside, had the police called on her, ran away multiple times, etc. My family has 7 children, and she's the only one that has created these sorts of problems. She would blame me for everything, saying that I'm absolutely horrible to her. I definitely was at some points, although I think it was in retaliation and not unjustified. She claimed that I'm the reason she acts out. Now back to today. Her boyfriend A and I are the only ones in the family that smoke besides my uncle, so we were all outside together. My sister joined us sometimes and we were chatting away. I would say I have a decent relationship with A, and it's small talk while we have a smoke, so I see no big deal. One time, it was just A and me outside, and my sister came storming out, shouting at me to stay away from her boyfriend because I'm a slutty whore. I started laughing because I was mainly shocked and confused, and I was trying to calm her down. I walked back inside saying, "What the hell is wrong with you? We were literally talking about you," and went to my granddad and his wife. She followed inside, still shouting, saying I need to stay away from A and out of her life while everyone stood around shocked. Eventually, my stepdad was able to get her to leave the event hall and talk down, but it put a huge damper on the party. I apologized profusely to my grandma, as she's literally 90, and this was meant to be her day. When I got home, my stepdad and mom said that while what she did was wrong, I shouldn't have laughed at her because it made her feel even worse. I bit my tongue, but they carried on, saying how I was in the wrong. I ended up saying, "It's not my fault that she's a jealous cow. I literally have my own boyfriend that I'm very happy with. There's a reason I cut her out of my life, but none of you guys were happy about that because it made it awkward for you. I was more than happy to be civil and still go to family events. It was her that was the issue. I've been dealing with this for 6 years. I am tired," and walked out. A texted me saying he apologizes for the outburst and that she hasn't stopped crying, but I was also wrong to laugh. Am I the asshole? You haven't done anything wrong. It's reasonable to laugh at her unhinged behavior. She clearly didn't like the friendly interaction with her boyfriend, which is very toxic and insecure behavior. It sounds like she is the way she is because her family enables her behavior and blames others for it. Am I the jerk for moving out of my parents' house without giving them much notice? My parents have always been very supportive and have provided for me, but I felt like I needed more independence and wanted to live on my own. I found an apartment and moved out, but my parents were upset that I didn't discuss it with them first or give them more time to adjust. They feel like I abandoned them and are now asking me to move back in. Am I the asshole for not considering their feelings more before making this decision? Am I the jerk? 18-year-old male. This is going to be 2 parts in one post. I will explain the timeline of events and then provide a direct transcription of our messages the next day. Sorry, this one's really long. Timeline: blank and blank county had a tornado 20-30 miles away from us, heading straight north, and we are northeast of there. The only situation that could have possibly put us in danger was if the tornado changed direction directly towards us, went 30 miles, and all devices in the house with an emergency weather alarm didn't work. At this point, where we live is still not even under watch. I said to my mother, "I'm not leaving the house in this much physical pain if we're not even under a watch yet." My mom said, "Fine, we'll all stay here no matter what, and if something happens to your sister, it's your fault." I got very upset with her for that comment because she once considered hurting her ex-husband for using my sister as a weapon. I went away for 10 minutes to cool down so we could talk like adults. When I came back with a calm tone, she immediately made a snappy quip, though I forgot what it was. I told her, "I'm not here to argue, I just want to discuss a game plan with you. I'm not refusing to leave the house period, but I'm not rushing to a storm shelter while there's no immediate threat, or even a watch, especially with how much physical pain I'm in." I told her my radar would give us plenty of warning, as we are literally a mile from the shelter. This part is blurry to think about, but it escalated into another argument, so I walked out of the room to the living room. My sister, who is 10 years old, talked to me calmly and respectfully agreed with me. Unfortunately, she wasn't quiet enough, and my mother yelled from her room, "Just go to bed," to her. I told my sister right then and there that she was fine and free to do what she wanted while I dealt with our mother. My mother was barely responding at this point due to alcohol and muscle relaxers, so we got nowhere with that. I went back to my sister and said if she wanted to talk, I was completely free. So we talked a bit about our mother's alcohol addiction and that she is a good person fighting demons. That conversation went on for about 30 minutes. We wrapped it up in perfect timing. We were now under tornado watch. I went to my mother's room to let her know it was time to keep our eyes peeled and be ready to go, but she was so unbelievably drunk and high that I had to push her with almost all my strength to get a drunken mumble out of her. Well over half the bottle she had gotten a few hours ago was gone. I could not get her up. I knew at that moment I had to get out of that house. I waited for the storm to pass. No tornado came, spent some time with my sister, packed my essentials, and left at 11:00 that night. This is the conversation we had the next day. Me, for what it's worth, Mom, I still love you and always will, the same way I have my entire life. I have no negative feelings for you and think you're a great person going through bad things. But I'm 18 years old now, and I have the chance to move to a healthier environment, one that has someone who can be there for me at all times, and a household that always wants better for themselves. I lived with you through my childhood because I could depend on my mom, but I don't feel the same way anymore. I know you do your best, and I will always love you for it. It's admirable. But sometimes the best you can do doesn't always result in the best ending. I need to be away from everything. I need to be away from you working yourself to death for no money and drinking and getting high into oblivion when you're home. I need to be away from a household that can start an argument involving using a child as a weapon over the weather. I need to be away from a household with people that don't want any better for themselves and away from a household with no priorities. Last night, when we were finally under tornado watch, I couldn't wake you. I shook you as hard as I could and got a drunken mumble out of you. You chose to take a muscle relaxer and drink more than half a bottle of Fireball instead of dealing with your emotions and the issue at hand. If the tornado actually had come, I would have had to drive my sister to the shelter and leave you. Reasons like that are why I feel like I can't stay anymore. I want you as an active part of my life, but living with you isn't healthy for me anymore. I can't sit there and watch you kill yourself. You just got released from the hospital from a most likely alcohol-induced ulcer, and you're already back to a bottle a day. I can't watch you kill yourself, Mom. I love you forever. Mother, what do you mean by the time we got a watch? We were under a warning already, and I'm sorry to disagree with you on the rest of this too, but I do. And it doesn't matter what I do, your mind is already made up. Just let me know what you'd like me to do with the house. Also, whatever your costs are where you're staying, let me know. I don't know if I can cover everything, but I can help. Me, we never got past a tornado watch, and either way, you were too intoxicated to save your kids if something happened. Mother, first of all, I didn't have half until after you and I talked. That's what I had left the next day, right at half. It takes 5 shots within a given hour not to drive. I had 8 in 3 hours. My problem was the tornado on the ground, not any later ones we may have had watches over. If we aren't going for the real thing, why worry about watches? Me, my sister and I saw the bottle. And that talk was me letting you know that I'd tell you if or when we should go to the shelter based on my radar. Why are you defending yourself being too messed up to exist? Better yet, why is an inconvenient argument an excuse for you to get messed up? You don't want help because you see no problem, and that hurts. Mother, I offered not to drink at all, and that's still not good enough either, so don't pretend I refuse to do anything at all. Do what you're going to do. We'll still be here. Me, you hurt, you work, and I can't ask you not to drink. But you go ballistic on the bottle every time, without fail, then even more frequently. If you're feeling frisky, you'll mix it with muscle relaxers and gummies. I've seen a handle gone in less than 36 hours. I have to walk you to your room multiple times a week. Ow. You grounded your daughter to sleep at 3 p.m. because she respectfully agreed with me instead of you in the other room. You told your son if something happens to his sister, it's his fault. And even when you don't drink, I'm 18 years old now. I need more from my life than being a housewife and enabling you to never find someone to properly raise my sister. And if the tornado was such a threat, why'd you black yourself out? Mother, it absolutely blows my mind that you're still thinking that nothing happened. Not sure where your facts are coming from, but I'd rather not discuss things when our sources don't say the same things. It's just going to lead to arguing, which is not helpful. Me, do you truly know how many times I've had to tell my sister, Mom's just exhausted? Mother, I'm sure several. Me, several, sure. Mother, okay, that's wrong too, obviously. Good night. Your post was removed because it exceeds the 3,000 character limit, including the title. Please consider resubmitting a briefer post, as you are not allowed to continue your post in the comments or another thread. Make sure to read the rules in full before attempting to repost. If you try to circumvent this requirement, you will be banned. Am I the jerk for telling my aunt she can't call me a liar and swoop in years later and expect to be my hero? My dad had me, a 17-year-old female, and my brother, a 15-year-old male. Our mom died when we were 2 years old and 4 months old, respectively. A year later, he met Mel and they got married. Mel had 2 daughters, a 23-year-old female and a 22-year-old female. I'm not sure if their dad died or if he just wasn't around, but they lived with us all the time. I don't remember a time before Mel and my stepsisters. Mel was so happy with my brother. He became her son and her pride and joy. She never cared about me and never expressed an interest in me. My dad was very similar. He basically forgot about me being his daughter. Mel still showed an interest in her daughters, but they hated the fact she claimed my brother as her son and showed so much obsession about having a boy. I get it because she was all they had before. They hated me. They hated my brother too and wanted nothing to do with him, but he was so good having 2 parents that he never cared about siblings. He calls himself an only child. I'd hoped to be close to my stepsisters, but they bullied me and said I would never be their family. My grandparents noticed that I was left out of a lot. They noticed the bullying and the rejections. They live out of state, and when they'd come to visit and we'd all go out, I was left behind with them while my dad and Mel took the other three out to amusement parks and other activities. Mel would tell me to my face in front of them that she's not my mom and yet beam when my brother called her mom. They also noticed that when my brother and stepsisters got treats, I rarely if ever did. They brought it up a few times and were basically ignored. I know they had this big talk with dad about it and he denied anything was going on. I also know they asked my aunt, who lived close by and saw us a lot, to keep an eye on me. She didn't. 2 years ago, I had gotten really depressed after being stuck with Dad, Mel, and my brother during COVID and being ignored. I told my aunt about everything and asked if I could live with her. She got angry on my dad's behalf. She called me a liar and told me not to be so jealous, that I wasn't a kid anymore. She said I couldn't live with her. She was so mad at me that I avoided seeing her for months. I was so afraid she would ridicule me in front of them. For some reason, she realized a couple of weeks ago that I wasn't lying. She came and told me I could live with her now. She told me it was awful what my dad let happen and that I shouldn't be there anymore, but she would get me out and she'd protect me. I was shocked. It came out of nowhere. She didn't apologize for what she said before though, so I told her I'd stay. I didn't think living with her was a better idea anymore. She got mad and asked me why not. I told her because she can't call me a liar and then expect to swoop in and for me to see her as a hero. She told me I got hung up on nothing. Am I the asshole? Your actions don't make you a jerk. Your aunt suddenly wanting you to live with her seems suspicious, and there might be more to the story, like your grandparents offering her money. Regardless, you need to talk to your grandparents since they have always supported you. You deserve better, so get away from all of them as soon as you can and start looking for your real family of choice in life. Am I the jerk for telling my parent that I won't be funding their retirement? So my husband and I recently had a baby. We have our own apartment. It's a little small, so we eventually want to upgrade. My dad lives alone in a 3-bedroom house, which is fully paid off. He retired early and has a really good pension, but still works part-time. He is also a narcissistic functioning alcoholic. I have had a long history of issues with him, and if it wasn't for wanting a nicer place for the baby, I wouldn't even be considering this. He would love nothing more than to spend his days drinking and watching Netflix. He has to work a bit still because his pension doesn't cover all his bills. Just 2 months ago, he was in the ICU for alcohol poisoning. When my baby was born, he offered to let us move in so we would have more room and be able to have more money for the baby. He said we would take the top floor, and he would have the basement with a kitchenette and bathroom. He said all he would want from us is to pay the utilities. I thought this was a way of him reaching out for help. If we lived there, then he would be able to see us and his grandbaby more often, and maybe he wouldn't be so lonely and drink so much. We discussed it more in depth, and he wants to do $30,000 worth of renovations to the basement before we move in, which he wants us to pay for in monthly payments once we move in. Then he says he wants to stop working once we move in. In 2 or 3 years, he may decide he wants to do something with his life like travel the world, and take out $30,000 to $40,000 against the house to do so, at which point he would have to start charging us rent to pay for that loan. Am I nuts, or does it sound like he wants us to fund his retirement and drinking? The whole point of us moving in was we would save money. Now we're basically going to be back to paying what we are in rent now, stuck in a house that we have no equity in, and he could literally sell the house at any point. I basically told him off because this is not how he first offered it to us. He got pissed off and started screaming at me like he has since I was a child, as if he offered us this great thing and we just dismissed it. If I were in his position, and my child was in my position with rent and house prices the way they are, I wouldn't be charging them rent on top of utilities. The house is paid for. It's not like he would be supporting us whatsoever. We would be buying our own groceries, driving our own car, both working full-time, etc. So, am I the asshole for refusing this great offer? You are not responsible for this for a number of reasons, most of which you stated. Even if it saved money, raising a child in a house with a narcissistic alcoholic is not a good plan for the family. Paying for his renovations without gaining any equity sounds like a bad deal. If the choice is between money and peace, choose peace. Am I the jerk for making up excuses to my sister about not being able to visit her? Am I an asshole for avoiding my sister and making excuses instead of telling her I don't want to spend time with her? My sister lives in my hometown, not too far from my mother. We don't have a close relationship. She talks non-stop and only about herself. If you get a word in, she interrupts to bring the conversation back to her. She will talk at you for hours. She is very volatile and harbors a lot of anger towards me and the family. You never know when she will suddenly get very angry. We've had long conversations in the past where she has spent hours detailing every way I've hurt her. I've apologized and told her to be close. I need to feel like our relationship goes both ways. Nothing changes. I stopped being alone with her because it would always end with her emotionally dumping on me. When I go to visit my mother, my sister gets angry if I go a day without seeing her or making plans. I don't particularly want to visit my sister and I want to avoid confrontation. I do an obligatory couple of hours with her and then make up excuses. For example, I'll say I need to go to bed early. I know that telling her how I really feel is the nicer thing to do, but I feel like the conversation would be hours of every grievance and I wouldn't be heard. Every small slight is remembered and cataloged, but every kindness is immediately forgotten. I spent years trying to be extra nice to her so she wouldn't be so angry at me. This started when we were young. I'm 7 years younger, all the way until I got married. She couldn't afford to come to the wedding, so my fiance and I paid thousands to fly her and her family out. At the wedding, she was either effusive and clingy the whole time, even though we aren't close, or she was angry and sulking. She got really mad at me at the wedding for forgetting to hug her even though I had just hugged my brother. Now when the wedding comes up, she gets very angry because she feels like she was slighted and she is still mad at me. After that, I said no more trying to make her happy. Am I an asshole for just avoiding her when I'm home? Is it asshole behavior to not just say how I feel? I'm passive as a person and I know being nice isn't always kind. It's important to rip the band-aid off and be honest about your feelings. Just tell her that you're no longer available for her emotional dumps and set those boundaries. It's okay to protect your emotional well-being, especially if past attempts to address the issues haven't worked. If she doesn't take it well, going no contact might be the best way to enjoy your life. Am I the jerk for telling my friend she is acting crazy? I am a 21-year-old female and have a close friend, also a 21-year-old female, whom I will refer to as Megan. I have been friends with Megan since middle school. We are really close, and she is like my sister. She has always had insecurities, used to be shy, and struggled with social anxiety. She has gotten therapy and is now much more confident in public, but I can tell internally she still struggles with self-esteem issues. She is way too focused on her looks, to the point she won't go out if she doesn't feel pretty that day. If we are going to join a social event, she won't eat until the event so she doesn't look bloated. We also went to the same high school. She had a toxic friend who used to tease her because of her looks, particularly because of her weight. Megan was never fat, but she used to be curvier. This girl, whom I will refer to as Ellen, used to tease her for having thick thighs, a big butt, and whatnot. Since then, Megan has lost a lot of weight. She is very skinny now, which I'm also concerned about, but she says she's fine. Megan still follows Ellen on Instagram. Every time Ellen posts something, she shows me and comments on how big Ellen has gotten, saying, "Karma is doing her job." I understand why Megan is petty, but I think this is very unhealthy behavior, so I try not to comment and change the topic. This time, I outright told her that I don't think Ellen is fat. She has just gotten curvier and is not as skinny as she used to be in high school, which is normal because she's an adult woman now. Megan said it is funny I say that because she used to be smaller than Ellen is now, but was teased by Ellen for it. Now she is skinny, and Ellen has gotten way bigger. This is karma doing its job. Megan asked why I can't be happy for her as her friend. I said that there is nothing to be happy about because being skinny isn't a competition. I know what Ellen did was messed up and I am sorry for that, but we were in high school and now we are adults. I was going to say that she should stop obsessing with Ellen's body, but she cut me off and started yelling. She said, "Oh right, it's normal for Ellen to be the size she is now because she's an adult curvy woman and looks good. But I was the fat high school girl, right? It didn't look good on me the way it does on Ellen, right?" I tried to tell her that I didn't say that, but she didn't let me and went on saying, "I know, Ellen still wins because adult women are supposed to be curvy, not twigs. That's a high school girl thing. I should have been skinny back then, not now. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Look, even you think that." I was in shock. I told her to stop because she is acting crazy right now. She told me to fuck off, that I am her best friend, and I should be on her side, not call her crazy. Then she left. When I went back home, I texted her that I wanted to talk this out, but she didn't text me back. This happened 2 days ago, and she is still ignoring my messages. Am I the asshole? You did nothing to be ashamed of. It seems clear that Megan still has body image issues and might even have an eating disorder. It's obvious you're concerned about her, so if you can, reach out to another close friend and share your concerns. Calling her crazy in the heat of the moment might have been insensitive, but it's not your job to agree with her just because you're friends. Hopefully she comes around and realizes she needs to move on and live her own life, focusing on what makes her happy rather than constantly comparing herself to others. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.